What's up, reefers? Welcome back to another episode of Tank Boyz. In this episode, guys, we're going to be talking about how much does it really cost to set up a new reef tank. Let's go.
Hey, I got something to say. I'm just so sick of hearing everyone complain. I know it's tough and I know there's pain, but hitting bottom is the only way to change. So I'll keep hustling, you keep struggling. Bitch, I'm humbling, keep mumbling. I'll keep doubling, you keep bluffing. You've got nothing, I'll keep hustling.
Guys, so like I said, we're going to be talking about how to set up a new reef tank. Hector's behind the camera. Say what's up, Hector.
What's up, folks?
Guys, don't forget the easiest way to support this channel is to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It supports our channel, keeps us going. Also, don't forget, we just launched some new merch. Everything's on there, so if you want to be wearing the new Tank Boy gear, it is ready. So today, we're going to talk about how to set up a new reef tank, but we also have to get some water and a whole bunch of cool stuff. So some of you guys might be wondering, why don't you guys have an RODI unit? You guys have X amount of tanks and you're always doing stuff. Well guys, there's something in the works that I can't just say yet, but stay tuned. So we're gonna get our buckets, we're gonna get some water, and then we're gonna dive into it.
There's one thing you guys need to know about Manny, is that whenever he puts a coral, if you guys look, he's got a little frag rack right there. Whenever he puts a coral on that frag rack, it's a sentence of death.
Guys, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. It's just, when you have a lot of coral, it's hard to keep up with it. So, but yeah, that's not the frag rack of death.
It falls, and you never see it again. And here's an example. I'm gonna show you an example right now.
See these corals right here? They were on the frag rack. They're gonna disappear, and we're not gonna see them for about 2 or 3 months.
Those will be rescued. Those will be rescued.
Let's check and see.
All right, reefers, so we're now heading to the LFS to get some RO water. Hector does have to get some salt water for his reef tank. There's a lot of really cool stuff that we're working on. We should be able to start talking a little bit more about it in about a week or so. But let's get right down to it. So, a lot of people stay away from the saltwater hobby because the cost, right? Not just the cost to set up the tanks, but also the maintenance. So needless to say, I mean, regarding maintenance or husbandry, there's no way to really go around it. You really have to be passionate about it and learn your chemistry. So that is solid. But regarding the cost, there's so many different ways you can go about it. Of course, you can buy new, right? So a lot of people just buy their systems new. And most tanks new, I mean, are going to cost a good amount of money, especially if they're made for reefing. Whoa, it's a little bumpy out here. So if it's made for reefing, yeah, I mean, to give you an example, the Red Sea 170 that I have, I believe that's one that I bought brand new, and it started out about $1,100 I think it was, US. So those could be a little up there in cost, but a lot of times, guys, and again, sorry for all the bumpiness because we are in Cobblestone Road. A lot of times, guys, there's always reefers that are moving, getting out of the hobby. And you could really get good deals on tanks that are barely even used. Remember, these reef tanks half the time are just set up. They're not being moved. Nothing really is happening to them. So don't forget about your local, reefers that are moving. It helps them out, and it also gives you a pretty good deal. So there's tons of different ways that we can go about it. But let's start the list, and let's talk about what's needed to set up your reef tank. So regarding your tank, you could go multiple different routes. The first route is getting a reef tank that has a sump already in the bottom. Those will cost typically a little bit more, but in my opinion, long term, they're easier to maintain. Hector right now has an all-in-one system. He has the Red Sea 130. It's an all-in-one. I have I technically have 3 systems up, but my 2 main tanks are the 170 and the 350 Red Sea. Both of those have sumps, so they make it a little easier. But we're gonna show you a more cost-effective way to get a reef tank. If you're a beginner and you don't want to invest too much, you could go down like the Petco route and get like $1 per gallon tank. Are those the best quality? Probably not. But if you're just trying to get your toes wet, kind of see how you feel about the hobby and play with it a little bit, it's definitely not something that I would completely question out. But long term, most people do end up getting other types of tanks, but it's everybody's preference. A brand new tank, Hector, how much would you say a brand new tank typically costs?
A brand new tank can typically cost anywhere from $900 and up.
Yeah, unless you're doing a nano tank. You could probably get away with a very cost-effective nano tank.
200.
Yeah, I know Innovative Marine has really awesome nano tanks. Waterbox has 20 gallons that are pretty well priced. But if you're getting something that's 50 gallons and up, typically you're going to be north of $1,000. But for most people, those are long-term investments to grow coral, have fish for a long time, so it's really worth it. But we're actually pulling up the Petco now, so we're going to show you what one of those tanks would look like. Safety first. Guys, I'm thinking of changing our name to the Guinea Pig Boys. What do you think? Leave a comment. All right, guys. All right, guys. So check this out. So this is a more cost-effective tank. So you could start out with something that costs a little less just to learn. You could also buy a tank from your local reef. I know Facebook Marketplace has a whole bunch of stuff. OfferUp has a whole bunch of stuff. Or you could buy it online. But online, of course, will be retail. So it's just a matter of, do you want to go used to start with, or do you want something just to kind of get your feet wet? Cool thing about these, they come with lids. So it's just a matter of getting your plumbing right and getting everything up to spec. These are pretty cool. Petco also has fish and sometimes coral. They're not the best, but yeah. Well, Petco's kind of stepping up. I came over here and I actually saw they had nori for their tanks. So good job, Petco. Alright, reefers, so here we are at the Worldwide Corals location in Winter Park. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the most important thing, which is return pump. Now, unfortunately, I can't use the original audio that this video had due to copyright reasons for music playing in the background. But one of the great options they had here was the CJ return pumps. They had tons of great options, from smaller pumps to more powerful pumps if you have bigger tanks. They had Spectra pumps, you name it, they had it. Return pumps are super important to assure you have adequate flow from your sump to your main display. So, return pump, super important.
I grew up in a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race. Every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way. Had to fight and misbehave, had to find a way to change, had to leave to find my way. Caught up in a daydream, I beat my mind up there almost daily. It's how I pass time, no opinions safely. It's how I understand what I want in this place, see. Cause everybody wanna tell you bad things, what could go wrong, what fame brings. But success is a finicky thing, and if you ain't sure, no, it'll never be. I don't wanna let myself down, myself down. I don't wanna let myself down, myself down.
Alright guys, so we've talked about your tank, we've talked about the return pump, but we got two more super important things that you need to set up your reef tank. The first thing is flow. So let's talk about that real quick. In my tank, I have a couple options for flow. The first thing that I do have is an MP10. So MP10s come in multiple different prices. I've seen them in the 200s, depending on what type of MP10 you need. I mean, it can definitely go up in price. To me, this MP10 is perfect for my tank. However, on top of an MP10, on the other side, I do have a gyre. So again, a good power head will typically run you $100 to $200, maybe even $300, depending on the size of it. Because remember, if you have a really big tank, an MP10 isn't gonna do much. You might need an MP40, maybe even an MP60. So, flow is crucial. Keep in mind, to emulate the ocean. So if you take a quick look at the top of this tank, you're gonna see that I have a ton of ripple. There's no still water, and that's super important for A, the growth of your coral, B, if you don't have a lot of good flow, you'll have a lot of detritus, which eventually turns into nitrate, and it's not good for your tank. So flow is super important. Now that we've talked about flow, we've talked about the return pump, which in my case, this is the one that I'm using. I'm using a high door. I love this return pump because I can control it here, and it has a pause mode for feed mode. So we've talked about the return pump, we've talked about the power heads or flow, and now guys, we gotta talk about lighting. So guys, lighting is one of the things that I tell anybody who ever asks me about a reef tank. Don't shorten yourself on lighting. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and buy the most expensive lighting on the market, but do your homework. For me, I absolutely love the AI primes. I'm running AI primes in both of my systems. Here, I have 3 evenly dispersed, and I do have one in the Anemone tank. Reasons why I love my AI primes. I love the spectrum that they produce. They're super easily controlled with their app on the phone, and you can even schedule it. So per light, and this is where it depends on how much money you want to spend. Per light, an AI prime, and it's been a while since I bought them, but I want to say they're in the north of the 200s, right? And lighting, you can go all over the place for lighting. So if you want to keep, for example, SPS, hard corals, you might want to spend a little bit more to get those really good parameters. But everybody has their own different theories on lighting. But a good light can run you $200, $300 depending on the type of light you get. I have seen guys, full disclosure, there are reefers out there that have bought Amazon lights that are very cost effective and have phenomenal growth. I remember when I first got back in the hobby, I ended up buying, I believe it was called an Aquanite from Amazon for like 60 bucks. And guys, my tank was thriving. It was the nano tank. It did phenomenal for the time that I had it. But with time, that light did go out, so I did have to buy a new light. These lights I've had for a long time now. So lighting, flow, return pump, and of course your tank, guys. So I hope you guys like this episode of Zoa Tank Boys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, guys. And until next time, Zoa Tank Boys out.